I'm May, and this is May's Crochets. I'm back today to share the next Woobles that I made. This time it's Cinnamoroll. I'm a beginner crocheter sharing my learning to crochet journey, and one of the things that I've been doing to learn how to crochet has been working my way through a bunch of the Woobles Learn to Crochet kits. I have videos on my channel of all of the previous Woobles that I've made. There's a whole bunch of them. I'll link my playlist here. But I'm back today to share Cinnamoroll. So let me show you the front of the kit. So this is another one of these collaboration kits. I previously did Hello Kitty and Snoopy, which were fun collaborations. Those characters are characters that I'm familiar with versus Cinnamoroll is not one that I was familiar with. I think Cinnamoroll is a Sanrio character. Am I right about that? I do know some other Sanrio characters like Hello Kitty, but I did not know Cinnamoroll. But here Cinnamoroll is it a he or a she? I think we're going to say here he is, here it is. I don't know. My first thought looking at this goofy character Cinnamoroll was like, I thought it was, he was kind of goofy looking. But I have to say he kind of grew on me as I was working on it. And I actually feel like in the end, it's like a pretty cute character. But at first I just thought it was like a weird shaped mouth, weird shaped body, weird shaped ears. I don't know. Okay, but here's Cinnamoroll. This is the front of the kit. This is how he's supposed to come out. It is one of these collaborations, which I'll show you a little bit more in a minute. Here's the back of the kit. It walks through everything that comes in the kit, everything that you need to make. There we go. Cinnamoroll by Sanrio. Yarn, step-by-step videos, pre-started piece, crochet hook, stuffing, safety eyes, yarn needle, and online instructions. And here you can sort of see over here, this is what Cinnamoroll looks like as a cartoon. Okay, I want to show you too. So because it's a collaboration, they have extra special stuff, including a super adorable crochet hook. With the collaboration, here's Cinnamoroll, cutie cutie. I've talked about this before, but unfortunately the actual Woobles crochet hooks are not the best quality, so I did not actually use this hook to make the kit, but the hooks are super cute. They're hit or miss, so like some of them are fine and some of them are less good. And so yeah, hit or miss, but in the end I did not use this one. And then they also have the yarn comes in these little sort of extra special packaging with the character. We got a little sticker here. That whoopsie, Cinnamoroll cutie. So I do think the collaboration kits cost a little bit more money because of the collaboration, but it comes with sort of this extra special branding and special hook and all of that. Okay, so that's Cinnamoroll. Am I saying that right? It's like cinnamon roll, but Cinnamoroll. Okay, I don't know. Just not a character I'm familiar with, though. Maybe I should get familiar because he's cute. Want to see how he came out? Here he is. Hi, hi. Okay, body. Let me show you the top. He's got these floopy ears, like almost like a bunny rabbit. And then he also has his tail on the back. Surprise. You can't see the tail from the front. Okay, here he is. Okay, here we go. So let's just talk through the pattern. Overall, I would say this one is a little bit on the easier side, which I think is great. You know, Woobles, they say learn to crochet kit. A lot of them are beginner kits, and you can learn as a total beginner. But this one actually, compared to some of the other ones, I feel like this one's like more doable. It has less sort of like fiddly complex parts compared to some of the other ones, but still kind of like goofy and cute and has some like fun little details. So yeah, this is a good one. As with most of the Woobles, you start with sort of the body, and it's this very standard egg shape where you just start from the top. You're doing some increasing and then some single crochets and some decreasing. And it's like very standard. I've done this a zillion times. I actually was working on this in the car, kind of mindless, just as we were driving somewhere. And I made it through like the body and then some of the other parts. So it's like pretty standard. So I think you do the body and then you do these little arms. And these were just little small rounds, pretty standard. I've done versions of this, you know, plenty of times before. You sew them on, and then the ears. So the ears is a kind of a lot here going on, right? There's like just a lot of stitches. You do some increasing, single crochet, decreasing. And you actually don't stuff them, but they come kind of like, you know, they're kind of big and floppy, floopy like this. So interestingly, I've talked previously about sort of the yarn under versus yarn over technique. I'll link to, I have one in particular video where I actually truly do an experiment where I make the same wooble once yarn over and once yarn under, and I talk about that. And what I've been doing basically lately since then is yarn under, especially for Woobles, because the stitches come out kind of tighter. They're more of like the X shape instead of the little V shape, and the kind of the holes between the stitches that show the stuffing are better with yarn under. So I had been doing like everything yarn under for a while, and I was liking that. But then I actually switched a little bit to do yarn over still for sort of these small little pieces, things like the arms, little guys, when you're doing little rounds. It's just, I feel like the mechanics of doing it are easier yarn over than yarn under, especially for these really small things. And the other thing is the magic ring. I actually don't know if people who do yarn under do, yarn under from the beginning in the magic ring. And I had been doing that, but I actually switched to do yarn over for the magic ring and then switch. And I feel like it comes out like more, the first round is like more circular, more solid, like something about it. I've sort of shifted to doing that. I don't know if that's like what other people do, or if you're doing yarn under, you go yarn under all the way. And I think some of my previous Woobles, when I did do yarn under, I did all the way through, including the little extra pieces. But I had this like silly situation where I was in the car, and I think that I had decided that I would do yarn over for like the arms and things. And I did yarn over for my ear. And I finished one ear by the end of the car trip. And then I put my Cinnamoroll project to the side for like at least a week, maybe longer, while I went to finish up some other projects. And then I came back and I did the second ear, and I had forgotten. This is why it's really good to write down notes about exactly what you're doing, which I usually do, but somehow I didn't this time. I went to do my ear and I was like, okay, it's a big ear, just like the body. So I must have been yarn under. And it's hard. I should be able to tell, like, because of the way the stitches come out, the V or the X, I thought I would be able to tell. But I didn't even really check very closely. And also with this yarn, it's just kind of hard to see. So I did the second ear in yarn under. And then I was like, great, I'm going to go sew them on. And like one ear was way bigger than the other one. So as we have found out, yarn over ends up with a bigger project because of the stitches, the way the stitches are. You're using a little bit more yarn. The stitches end up a little bit bigger. And so yeah, like one ear was definitely bigger than the other. I should have checked sooner. I just like wasn't even thinking about it. And then I realized. And so I went back and redid that second ear. I still did do yarn over. So I don't know, like, if the body's made in yarn under and the ears were both made in yarn over, am I ending up with like bigger ears than like it should be? I'm not exactly sure. It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, those ears are plenty big, so not sure. But I finished the ears, whatever, sewed them on, and I think they're kind of goofy, like a little bit goofy anyway. They're really floppy, floopy. They do tell you to like, okay, how do I say this? The ear finishes off where you end up with the stitches, because you do sew the two ends of it together, or you crochet the ends of it together, and you end up with like a few stitches kind of facing out nicely. And they say like, that looks nicer, so we want that to be facing out. And so if you do that like on both sides, you end up with one sort of facing out and one facing in, because of the way that like stitches facing out ends up. And in theory, the ears are fully symmetrical, but in practice, it feels like they're not. They're like a little bit like slanted. And so because of that, because you're doing them both facing out, they end up a little bit like slanted in the opposite direction. So I do feel like maybe if I were to do this again, I wouldn't have them both face out. I would actually try to keep them both kind of slanted in the same direction. It's not like super obvious or anything, but I do think there's a little bit, and maybe also it has to do with like how I sewed it on or something. I actually think I had a similar situation when I was sewing arms on to my Aries crochet Zodiac doll, which I have a video about, which I can link to. It was very similar, and the arms just, they came out a little bit sort of like off kilter, off center, like a little bit not symmetrical. And I think I actually undid the arm and fixed it, because I really wanted the arms in that case to be like evenly kind of sticking out in the same sort of the same angle, versus this one. Can you sort of see what I'm talking about? That it's just like, it's like a little bit off kilter, off. The slant is a little bit off. But I feel like that's actually part of the charm too. This goofy Cinnamoroll character is just like whatever. So I think that's fine. So we've got the arms, the ears, flippy floopy. Oh yeah, the safety eyes, which you put them in as you're working the body. They're blue. I've only ever done black safety eyes before. So this was kind of fun that we have blue safety eyes for the character who has blue eyes. So that was kind of fun. So then the mouth is so funny. I struggled a little bit with the mouth. I had to do it twice to get it in exactly the right spot, but it's this, can you see? It's like there's like some very complicated embroidery that they walk through in the videos to get it. There's like basically four separate kind of strands to make this shape. I wasn't sure. I was like, why? Instead of just like a little smiley. But I guess, does this, yeah, you can see in the back this picture of Cinnamoroll that's the mouth shape. So it's not just a smiley. And so that's, I guess, why you're doing it that way. They actually have you for almost every step of the mouth, they have you like split the stitches. So instead of just going through one of the actual holes, which typically when you're doing embroidery, you're like going through a hole and then you're going like two stitches over or something. In this case, they have you go like right through the middle of one of the stitches here. And then they have you go like, there's like sort of, they point out this one specific strand of yarn that's like between two holes that you're supposed to go through. And I actually think the fact that I did yarn under for the body instead of yarn over meant that the stitches were a little bit different to like split, and also this one like strand of yarn just came out a little bit different because of the X stitch instead of the V stitch. So I kind of worked with it, but like I feel like maybe actually yarn over exactly like the Woobles, you know, teach maybe would have been better in this case. So I don't know. I mean, of course, in the end, like I did yarn under, but there's still, you know, holes between this. So I think this is just the way this yarn is. So be it. So that was the mouth, and then the blush, the blush for the cheeks. I followed the directions and put it exactly where it told me to. I do feel like it's a little bit in a goofy spot. Like, it's almost, the blush is almost to the arms. I feel like it should be like right under the eye. I actually feel like it could be one round up in both of these and it would be fine. But I don't know, almost like maybe between the two. Like I've done blush in some other patterns as well, and I always think it's interesting where exactly you're supposed to place it, because sometimes it's almost like right below the eye, sometimes it's like way to the side of the eye. I feel like there's different options, but let's see what is there. You can see that this character on here does have some blush right under the eyes, so I feel like it came out fine, but I could see it being a little bit closer to the eyes too. And then the tail. So, you know, I thought I was done, but you can't see the tail from here, right? Oh, okay, wait, there's a whole other piece here. So the tail is interesting. You actually make a really long tail. It's just like a whole bunch of single crochet rounds of 6 up to like, I think 13 rounds. So you end up with this really long tail. And I was like, huh, that's funny. Like you can't see it, you know, in the picture. And then it turns out you make it long and then you roll it up. So is this like the roll, the cinnamon roll? I don't know, but you basically roll it up and attach it to kind of bring the end of it back into this to kind of secure the roll, and then you sew it around the bottom, and so you end up with this goofy little, you know, instead of a long tail, you end up with this little roll tail. So yeah, I don't know, in the end, like I don't know, like I'm trying to decide if this is one of my favorites or not. Like, I do think it's pretty goofy, but also kind of cute in a way that I wasn't totally expecting. When I first looked at the packaging, I just thought, like, I don't know, this is kind of goofy. But I actually kind of like how he came out, and I actually want to go find out more about this Cinnamoroll character because I think he's actually really cute. Like I was saying earlier, I actually do think this would be a great kit to buy for a total crochet beginner, especially if they're into like Sanrio and Cinnamoroll in particular, because there's some interesting things going on here, but nothing that's too complicated. The mouth is probably one of the harder parts, but they walk you through, you know, in the video, it's kind of exactly every step of the way, how to do it. And I think like things like the ears and the tail, there's definitely some sort of interesting parts to it, but they walk you through it and it is like kind of standard, but not too complicated. Like there's no color changing. And there's nothing too crazy. So I actually think this could be a good beginner kit, especially if you're into this character. So that's Cinnamoroll. That's it for today. I have a few more Woobles to work my way through, so stay tuned for those for future videos. But yeah, thank you so much for keeping me company, and I'll see you next time. Bye.